Welcome everyone to episode 93 of Perpetual Backlog. I'm your host, Aqua, like usual, and joining me, like always, is your co-host, Dalit.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah. But I'm doing an opening, like I did last week, so that means we have a guest. Because when we don't have guests, I just say, what's up, people? It's going to be a special episode. We bringing on Jay from JRPG Gaming.
Woo!
Talk about a game that comes out this week, one we are all anticipating to play. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm very well. I just wanted to point out that Dolit, you reminded me of have you ever seen Iron Chef, the old Japanese version?
I have. I love it.
Yeah, Dr. Yukio Hattori always goes, always a pleasure. And I'm like, hey. My Samsung TV, like smart TV, has this thing where it will just play. It has like live TV over the internet if you don't have an antenna plugged in. But they've got really specific channels, and they've got a 24/7 Iron Chef channel.
Oh God!
I need to tell.
I just leave it on.
Well, first of all, thank you for telling me this. I need to look into that, and I need to tell a big chunk of my family about that as well. We love that show.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
It
holds up.
100% it does.
Well, unfortunately, this is not an Iron Chef cast. This is a Xenoblade 3 cast. But before we get into that, what did everybody do this week? Oh, we can go at Jay. Jay, what did you do this week?
You know what? Not a lot. Some Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or a lot of it, and some Final Fantasy 14.
Hey.
Yeah. We respect 14 players in this house.
We sure do.
Well, we did get local servers earlier in the year, and I said that was when I would start playing.
Ah, brilliant!
All right, how far you into it?
Oh, I'm capped. I'm past Endwalker.
You.
I'm past Endwalker, and I'm raiding savages.
Oh, nice.
We love to hear it.
Yeah. More people in this in this house of 14 is better. Dollar, what'd you do this week?
I played so much Monster Hunter and a fair chunk of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on a New Game Plus run.
I didn't hear you. You say Monster Hunter? Nobody plays
yeah.
Monster Hunter anymore, man.
It's this niche game that has taken the world over for a short time there. That's the one.
Nobody plays that game anymore as I look at my Steam account and see that I'm almost at 200 hours in Rise.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about how far I am in. Because I've just been playing Rise. I've been bouncing back and forth between Rise and World because, I don't know, I guess I have a problem, and when I'm not at work, I hunt monsters, whether it be in Monster Hunter or honestly, I've just been running through a lot of the super bosses in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, though I never did open up challenge mode. I'm 300 hours into this. I've never even opened up challenge mode yet. I need to go do that.
In Rise or World?
No, in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I want to grab Shulk, Fiora, Elma, all of that. So
that was fun.
Yeah, no, and it looks great. Like the challenges themselves. Like now that I 200 plus hours in have a better fundamental understanding of how that game is played. We'll go into that later. It's real fun. I like to really test what I can do with like the blades that I like, which aren't always very good.
Do you have all the blades?
No, goodness me, the gacha's been cruel. Something else we'll talk about later.
How many are you missing?
Enough. I genuinely don't know because
he definitely doesn't have a Cosmos.
Well, that's lucky.
I don't have Cosmos. I did get Tellus just literally last night, but
oh, you don't have Cosmos yet.
He doesn't have Cosmos.
Oh, I was gonna say if you had Cosmos, that's lucky.
That's the easy street, right?
It's I can't remember. It depends on there's 5 different seeds that you can get, which determine which there are always 3 rare blades that are harder to get than the others, depending on what group you're in. So there's 5 groups. And I think one group is lucky and it gets a 2.8% chance of summoning Cosmos.
That's a 1.8
instead of a
chance than usual.
0.8%.
Oh, it's 2. I thought it was 1 straight up. It's not even 1. It's 0.8. Woof.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for 4 groups it's 0.8, and then for one of the groups, I can't remember which one, but I'm pretty sure it's 2.8. It's been a long time since I made that video, but I think it's something like that.
I'll be honest, I probably ended up looking up your video between you and now for some of that information last year, and unfortunately it just hasn't stuck. So
it's just a video with non-stop babble, like just
I am looking at it now.
And math babble.
I'm looking at it now. I have Percival, Azami, and Adenine, which makes me think I have the 3rd seed.
Yeah, you can tell what group you're in by depending on the first 3 blades that you summon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Because yeah, every group gets 3 different pity blades as well.
But anyways, to answer your initial question, I have a good chunk of them. I just don't, I don't have them all. And admittedly, when I was introduced to this game, however long ago it was, I had a fairly good understanding that I probably wasn't going to get them all because I don't have patience like that. I say that. I really do. I just haven't done it.
I mean, it takes a lot of farming.
Yeah, lots of. What is it? I think the method I had seen was just farming Relentless Arden.
Yeah.
People
at least it did get easier over time.
True, with all the various updates.
Initially, it was just like, it was messed up. But I mean, if you're only missing like 1 or 2 in the end, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm pretty sure that the game was always designed for people not to worry so much about getting all the blades.
100%. My first run through, I didn't even get more than 7 or 8 rare blades, I think. So
yeah, I can't remember. It's been like 2.5 years or whatever since I've played. Oh God, has it been longer? It's actually been longer than that.
It's probably been longer, honestly.
No,
I came into this game very late.
Same here. I didn't pick up 2, and I didn't pick up my Switch until
that's
like
right.
2 years after it came out. So, I mean, I only played Monster Hunter this week. I told myself after we'd finished the Monster Hunter cast last week that I was going to sit down and I guess adamantly play X. But then I got into my head, I was like, if I sit here and play a JRPG for this week, I'm gonna burn myself out on playing another JRPG for the next month.
And a big one.
Yeah, and X being a big one at that. So I decided to put it down, and then depending on how fast I get through 3 and do everything that I want to do in 3 is when I'll pick X back up. But yeah, I've only played Monster Hunter this week, so it's I think I think I may have found my main weapon in Monster Hunter now.
Oh, which one have you
set? Dual blades. I think dual blades may be it. Dual blades may be it.
So you've gone from bow to light bowgun to heavy bowgun to dual blades. My.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, yesterday when we fought the Valstrax, and I barely got hit, and
I don't want to talk about it.
And it didn't cart me or whatever. I was like, okay, I think I can. The real test is going up against Furious or Zhang. All right, that's the real test. All right, if I can get through that
time. So here's my thoughts on this. You'll have a better time with that because even if he's in your face, that's where you want him.
Yeah. You play any Monster Hunter, Jay?
Yeah, I started with dual blades, and but the game didn't, like Monster Hunter in general, didn't click with me until Rise and until I tried Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a great time to pick Sword and Shield up, actually.
Yeah,
it's really so much. It's so much fun. I love the jump up in the air and like that satisfying if you get like multiple hits with the jump.
Yeah.
With like the jump ups, like tung 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 tung.
No, that's how I feel with dual blades, man. Blades and Rise is so good too.
Yeah, it's always been a case of like Sword and Shield's been a good starting option, but maybe GU was pretty good to it as well. But like Rise feels like the first time that I can say, yeah, no. Not only is it easy to get your head around and forgiving in terms of items, but it is a joy to play.
Yeah, for a long time, I'd played like, a couple of hours here and there of just random ones over the years, but it never like grabbed me. And I played Rise on the Switch like a lot. I came to PC and I played it for a bit, but because it was like starting back over from the beginning,
it can be rough.
Kind of just lost interest.
Yeah.
That's how I was with World. Because World came out on the PS4 and I played a metric shit ton of that. I'm at like upwards of 400 hours on the PS4 version. And then the PC version came out. I got that, and you had to start over, and it was also like it wasn't up to date with the PS4 version as well. So it was like restarting back like all the way without having all the updates and everything with it. And so I never really got into the to the PC version that much. I did beat it, get all the way up to the Guiding Lands. And then they announced Rise for the Switch, and I was like, it's on the Switch. I have a Switch. I guess I'll play it. Everybody knows that I'm not a big fan of Nintendo. I'm not a big fan of their devices either. But I'll play it. So I played, I think the first like I played like maybe 10 to 15 hours of the Switch. Got to the end. Got the high rank. Whatever, was going through that, and then they announced it for PC. I immediately sold my Switch like a month after that because I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, how'd that go?
I don't need. We'll talk about that. I don't need this thing for a while anymore. All right. Monster Hunter Rise is coming to PC. All right, and I will just play it on PC because I don't want to burn out on the Switch version and just never play it. All right.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, they did a great job with it on Switch. Like, it's pretty astounding how well it runs and how good it looks, even.
Yeah, it's black magic. They did some type of black magic to make that game run as well as it does on the Switch. Like, the RE engine is just phenomenal.
Look what's possible when you like make something for the Switch instead of trying to port it over.
Yes, correct. The actual truth there. I would like to potentially start a fight really quickly.
Okay.
Hey, Jay, do you consider Monster Hunter an RPG?
Not really. I mean, it's kind of like it's. I don't know. It's kind of like its own genre.
Correct.
You know, like do you consider Dark Souls an RPG, like Soulsborne an RPG?
Yes, right? Actually, because of stat allocation, for me, it reminds me of like the old school RPGs.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and there's people out there can make arguments for Monster Hunter, but they're kind of like, I don't think RPG would be like the first descriptor to come to mind for either of those series.
I think I don't know why I suspected you might have considered it as such, but yeah, I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's transcended to a game of its own style with perhaps RPG elements in it.
Yeah, apart from God Eater, I can't even think of anything that's like Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, it's just God Eater and Tokiden. To my knowledge, anyway. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, Tokiden is also a Monster Hunter game, yeah. So I plays a lot of Tokiden, actually.
I've actually not played much of either of those games. I played a bit of God Eater 2.
I have God Eater 3, and it's okay.
The problem,
yeah, that's how I would describe it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem for me. It's like, if it fortunately has like a story and stuff happening. Otherwise, it's just a worse Monster Hunter. It's just floaty, and the combat's not as impactful.
Well,
but there's characters, and the characters are usually better than Monster Hunter characters. So
the only reason why I got God Eater 3 was because I had just finished Code Vein, and I was like, "Oh, this is set in the God Eater universe, man! I gotta see." And then I played like maybe 10 hours of it, and I was like, "Okay, I don't know if I can continue this. It's okay. It's not an objectively."
Did you finish Code Vein?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Oh god, I played the character creator and then turned that
That character creator is amazing. I don't think you've missed much. I played through, and it was okay. It was good. It's going to get a sequel at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I just don't like Souls likes. So
there you have it.
So even though it was anime Souls, I still wasn't gonna like it.
I would say it's worth a play because it's not very long. It's not like, it's not terribly long at all. It's like maybe if you're pretty quick, it's like 10 hours maybe. And the story is okay. They do they attach it to it is in the God Eater universe, whatever. It's just like a secluded area in the God Eater universe. Everything on the outside is God Eater, while inside is just what this whole vampire shit is. It's
neat. It's fun. It was a way to get new fans into the series.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty all right. It's definitely better than God Eater. I'll say that.
Here we are starting fights.
Yeah.
And isn't it funny that the God Eater producer is now the Tales producer?
Imagine.
Yeah. Well, man. Yeah. Dude, Rise was so good.
I very much liked that game. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Everybody on here platinumed that game, so.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So. Anyway, Xenoblade, because that's what fucking cast is.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Just to get started, I kind of wanted to get everybody's experience with what you call it, the Perfect Works fucking universe.
I've heard. So I'm not even sure that I'm using that correctly, but I've heard like the whole Xeno timeline just referred to as Perfect Works. I'm not quite sure where I picked it up. I forget where, but I'll tell you what, I'll go first. In terms of all of the Xeno experience, I have not played Xenogears. I've played Xenosaga 1. I have apparently played Xenosaga 2, but I couldn't tell you anything that happened in it. I've not played 3, and I've played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, and I've not played X.
All right. Jay?
So I haven't played Xenosaga. I played Xenogears a long time ago. But I mean, really, my entry into Xeno was Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I played the hell out of. Like, that must be getting like well over 300 hours.
You kind of have to.
Yeah, I still go back to it. I love every second of it. I love the world, everything about it. I still basically, it's my second favorite game of all time, and probably easily the best open world RPG I think ever.
Oh, dude, Dollar, just think that's second to Tales of Exilia.
Yeah, Tales of Exilia, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Final Fantasy 9, or in some version of those. But yeah, after that, so yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles X, and then obviously Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Torna, and now 3.
Oh, I like Torna so much.
Torna was great.
Yeah, Torna is great. So, I guess I have like the least experience when it comes to the Xeno series, right? I guess it's
how did this happen?
It's attributed to me not really getting into gaming until the Xbox era, because the first games I really got into were Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, and then
to be fair, a fantastic opening to gaming.
Yeah, and then subsequently, being like, okay, I know about Final Fantasy, all right, so I see commercials for Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, okay, all right, this looks pretty legit, all right, so I'm like, I get super into Kingdom Hearts, worst 15 years of my life, so I've never played Xenogears. I've never touched a Xenosaga. All right. My introduction to Xenoblade Chronicles Xeno is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. All right. And I didn't buy a Switch when it first came out. I'm not like when I say that I don't like Nintendo or whatever, I'm actually a very staunch like anti-Nintendo person most of the time. All right, I don't like a lot of their business decisions. Their devices aren't exactly the best. But
let's not get off Fred kicked off of the Nintendo bandwagon, shall we?
These are my opinions. Jay loves the Nintendo Switch. All right, guys.
Yeah, I genuinely do.
Okay, so my opinions are my own. All right. But it took me 2 years. I said if I ever got a Switch, I'm only getting the Switch to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I have a friend that's been pushing me to play this video game, all right? I've seen the commercials for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I was like, all right, this looks anime enough for me to fucking play, all right? I buy a Switch, and the only game I buy for it is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that's the only game I get at first. And then I proceed for the next 8 days, do 4 to 12-hour streams of me just playing this fucking video game. All right,
that's how he got me to pick it up.
I get addicted. I tell Dahl about this game. He looks at it. He goes, "Oh, this game looks really sweet." Dahl already has a Switch. Fucking gets the game. He starts playing it or whatever, and I'm like, I'm into it. All right, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so good. Then I looked at 1 and I was like, I remember my mom having a Wii and being like, I could get Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and play it. And this is obviously before the definitive edition comes out. But I'm like, I look at all the videos of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and I'm like, I don't know. This game looks like it's too much. I have a 3DS. So I buy Xenoblade Chronicles 1 for the 3DS. Worst decision of my life.
I'm so sorry. That's where you chose to pick it up for.
Worst decision of my life. That game is unplayable. All right, I can't play more than 10 minutes.
You were genuinely better off with the Wii.
And I was like,
absolutely insane. They got it to run, but
that's incredible. I don't even know what made them think to do it, much less actually manage it.
I said I get headaches looking at that. All right. And I was like, I can't do it. So I just don't play anymore. My life is, I've played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that is my life at the moment.
I have a lot of criticisms of Xenoblade in general, but I think one's worth playing.
Eventually
did.
Just
for completion. Okay.
Eventually did. I eventually did. I did it recently.
I wasn't sure. I'll be honest. I wasn't sure if you finished. I forgot that you did.
I finished. So they announced definitive edition. I buy definitive edition. This is obviously right before Monster Hunter Rise comes out. I play a little bit of definitive edition. I play Rise. They announced Rise for PC. I sell my Switch, and I was like, you know what? I don't think 3 is ever going to come out anytime soon. All right. And so I will just leave it at that. I bought a Wii U. I bought a Wii U. All right, to play X or whatever, because my friend that's really into Xenoblade is like, you need to play X, man. All right, I got a Wii U. I started X for a little bit. I played 10 hours of it, and I'm like, this game's massive or whatever, but I just don't feel like lugging out this a hunk of garbage to play it. All right, and at that time, the emulation of the game wasn't exactly the best. All right, unlike right now.
Now it's so good.
Now, that's how I'm currently playing it. All right. That emulate 60 frames per second. Oh my god, it's so fucking beautiful. Yeah. I just
and it's amazing. The Monoliftsoft's engines are if they do release a Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever, they're gonna so easily be able to just issue a patch and have this. Yeah. Their engines are incredibly versatile.
I'm just like, oh man, if only. So yeah, I sell my Switch. I'm like, okay, whatever. All right. 7 months down the line, it's the night before the direct that announces 3. All right. I make a tweet because everybody's like, oh, they're going to announce Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm like, there's no way. All right. I was like, if they announce Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I will shill out another $300 to buy a Switch tonight. All right. Then the direct happens. And they announce Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Not only do they announce Xenoblade Chronicles 3, comes out in fucking September. And I'm like, oh, I ate shit that day. Everybody was messaging me. Everyone was messaging me like, so how's that purchase going? And I'm like, fuck. I order a Switch. I got Definitive Edition, and yeah. And then 2 to 3 months later, they're like, oh, by the way, we're pushing the release date up to up 3 months, and I'm like, now I really have to get through fucking Definitive Edition.
Like, that's still so magical to me. I've lived for so long in this time where games go in one direction, and that is backwards. We have to delay, whether it be because we've put out an inferior product and we're afraid of what you'll say, or because they genuinely understand that, you know, they need more time on this. To have a game pushed up is like magic to me.
Not yeah, look, by the time that so with like getting review codes or copies, right? Most publishers will send them out. You're lucky to get 2 weeks before the review embargo lifts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And normally it's like maybe a week. But for the majority of Nintendo stuff, if Nintendo have announced a release date, the game is already ready. As in, they could ship it tomorrow, even though the release date is in like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, like, the review codes get sent out like a month or more in advance. Because the games are just ready, and they want to make sure that it's ready. And their release dates less to do with like a race against the clock to finish the game. It's always about the marketing and when do they want to release it.
So, and feel free to just wholesale ignore me on this one if you have to. But do we then think that this is a case of we were originally going to ship a Zelda game, but we've decided to delay that, and we need something at this time? Let's go with the next hotly anticipated item.
Yeah, Zelda maybe. But what? So Splatoon 3 took the
had the
September,
summer spot.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, it just depends. So like, I know the end of the year is getting pretty crowded.
Oh,
so Nintendo might have got a heads up that the end of the year is going to be crazy, and then they were like, "Well, we don't have to release this in September. We can release it earlier."
Okay, that's a fair reading.
But I mean, it was definitely like some kind of snap decision, because they can't even send the collector's editions out on release day.
That's right.
So like, it was definitely like a last minute decision.
Yeah, I was like, and so I put back in I turned on my Switch, and then I've most recently, I think it was a couple weeks ago, it was a little bit before Sunbreak came out for Rise, that I finished Definitive Edition. I'm not going to go through Future Connected. I've watched the entirety of Future Connected.
Same. I also didn't actually play through Future Connected.
I didn't go.
It's so much fun though.
Yeah, I didn't. So I didn't play it because I have this thing where I hate Nopons, man. I hate them.
How did you know?
You're wrong. Because everybody hates Nopons, but they're amazing characters.
I'm gonna hard disagree with you on this one because the one in X is literally just the butt of a "I'm gonna eat you" joke. All right.
Yeah, that was like probably the biggest criticism of XCX was we're gonna eat Toro.
Yeah.
Don't misunderstand. I love arguing with Aqua. I do. It's like a sport for us. But I have to agree. I didn't think Ricky added Ricky. Yeah, Ricky. I have to make sure I'm saying Ricky, not Riku now. I'm not sure Ricky added all that much to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 that couldn't have been shifted to another character. And Tora, I cannot say the same about. He was actually a pretty big deal. I just personally did not jive with the character. Oh, I don't know.
I don't hate Nopons, but I mean, they're not like the greatest thing ever. But I quite enjoy mascot characters, so I never mind.
So I don't mind mascot characters half the time.
I
right?
do.
So,
You've absolutely nailed my bias.
Yeah. I don't mind mascot characters that much, like because obviously we've played the Tale series. That the games are littered with mascot characters. Right. Some of them are bad. Some of them are okay. Some of them are actually
they're all
funny.
good, apart from Bienfu.
Apart from Bienfu, I'll agree with you on that one. But like, if I had to pick a Nopon out of the three that I have interacted with, I think Ricky is probably the more tolerable one.
Probably, I think Tora's written better overall because he just has more to do. But Ricky he's this
Tora
weird...
gets the buff that he's attached to Poppy. That is literally all he gets. He gets the buff that he's attached to Poppy. All right.
That is definitely a buff for me. It's the only reason he's ever in my party. But like Ricky has this weird parental feeling about him when they're not making fun of him, which is interesting. Because
he's a dad.
I understand this, but that's not how he's presented. Like can we talk about how his introduction works? He's a laughing stock of his own community, and he's literally played volleyball with. Ryan spikes the hell out of him.
Yeah, but okay. So that aside, all right, Ricky.
I don't think Ricky does much on his own. I think what Ricky's big buff is he does a great job of having moments with one moment with Dunban, which is excellent, because essentially he just shuts up and lets Dunban talk about himself, and a few moments with Melia where he lifts her up. It's not the best writing in the world, but he just kind of shows that he's a decent person, ? He's a decent fuzzball. But I don't think like the writing of the character is stronger than Tora.
But Tora's a degenerate.
Tora is a degenerate.
He's a hardcore degenerate.
He's also a member of the party, so he gets more screen time, which I think it doesn't automatically make it better, but it gives him more opportunities to have moments that aren't just he made Poppy and there's a lot of sexual overtones there. But there's also moments where he gets to be a good friend and shoot me in the foot, a hero pawn, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the advantage of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so much, just some way better characterization for the whole party.
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1, the Shulk story.
Yeah. The Shulk and Melia story. Because I think Melia has the best arc. I like Shulk. Yeah. I think he has the second best arc in his own story. I think Melia gets the best.
Yeah. I mean, the game just revolves a lot around Shulk.
Truth, absolutely.
But yeah, I also more so gravitate towards Melia. So it was nice. That's why I wanted to play Future Connected.
Yeah. And I got all that. I got all that by watching it. It's just, man. So I played like the first little bit of it, and then it got to the point where it was like, okay, for the replacement of your chain attack like mechanic or whatever, you need to find all these minor Nopons, all right, in the world, and I'm just like, I really don't want to do that. I really don't like.
I found every single one.
Of course, you also have 300 to 400 hours in Xenoblade Chronicles X that everybody that plays that video game does. So, I can't do that. Like some Nopons are okay to the point where I can tolerate them, but I don't know. I just don't like. And so I watched Future Connected, and it's good, and I see the connections that it will have, that it has with 2, and that it probably might have with 3. But I mean, I did play most of Torna though. Torna's good, minus the community mechanic, but that
it's not that
bad. Do I jump now? No, let's stay on Future Connected. Before we get to Torna, because oh man, I imagine we'll all have quite a lot to say about that. For Future Connected, for me, like the real reason I didn't want to play through, I didn't want to shell out the extra money, but also because I was already so late to it that I could just watch it. That said, from what I saw, like we mentioned before, like it does a lot of good for Melee. I feel like it doesn't do anything for poor Shock though.
Well, Shulk got his old thing.
Exactly right. Shock has a whole game that's for him. I get that. It was just weird having him turn up and just be there because he's the main character of the last game.
I'm the vehicle.
Yeah, pretty much. So I've spent a whole lot of time defending no pawns despite not liking them, and that's not going to change here. I actually didn't mind Nene. The other one, Kino, I couldn't stand. But Nene was more like her father in that way. Only I think her moments were more, or were they just less? And I like that. It might have been that they were just less.
Yeah, I think I guess it depends on their story as well, but also like their voices play a big part.
Yeah, you know what?
Sometimes they're grating, sometimes they're like I loved in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you know, like the big bad evil one, like from the beginning, who's like the boss.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. He's so well characterized.
And yeah, like, he's a mustache twirler if ever there was one.
Like it's perfect. So like like sometimes you can almost forget that they're like it's supposed to be these cute mascot characters, but then other times, yeah.
That's it's kind of what I like about the premise of what like going into Xenoblade 3 is that Riku and Manana are not part of the cast, they're hero characters. So they're not, and obviously you have your 20 hours in it already, so I know you've already dealt with that.
Well, I mean from the beginning, so they are like they're in the party, but they're not like they're not like that kind of character.
Yeah,
they're not like a main party character, but they are always around because they're like the ones that. So, oh my god, why can't I even remember their names now? You just said them, but now I've got
Riku and Manana.
Yeah, Riku and Manana. So Riku does the gem crafting.
Yes.
And Manana does the cooking.
Okay, yeah.
So they just cover those two mechanics, more or less.
That's good.
Are we just going to completely gloss over Riku's voice? Are we just not going to mention this?
Yeah, it's not Nopponish at all.
Oh boy.
I like it.
He reaches down there.
Yeah, it's just a normal guy.
I like it.
Like Manana sounds very Noppon-like without being annoying.
Okay.
But yeah, when I first heard Riku talk, I was like, wait.
Something
is bad, Noah. Wait a minute.
Not right.
when I saw it was in the director, it was like, this is bad, Noah. And I'm like, wait, was that fucking Noppon's voice? What the hell?
It was weird hearing this Patrick Seitz-like voice come out of a Noppon, first of all, and then to realize, how does Poppy sound more like a Noppon than this little mint-colored fuzzball? All right. I mean, all right, you have my attention. That's new.
Okay, so I mean, in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, there was a part where they did say that like some ancestor of the Noppons, they started the tradition of speaking the way they do, like with the silly sentence order and stuff. But before that, they used to speak like in formal grammar, like.
Oh, so maybe Riku's like a descendant of that.
He's clearly just he's a scholar.
Yeah,
bringing back the old ways.
Yeah, I mean,
also gems.
They're totally possible, so they can talk normally. Apparently, they just do it on purpose.
Oh,
that makes it even worse.
Listen here, writers. That does not help your case. I do like they at least. Yeah, I like they at least bring it up.
No, they're doing it to make themselves cuter. Duh.
No.
Yeah, it's endearing. Wait, no.
But now, I liked what I saw of Future Connected, and it's a pretty decent story. It doesn't I don't think it lives up well to the entirety of the Xenoblade 1 story itself. I think the writing's a little bit like it kind of goes downhill a little bit.
Just some of the cut content from Xenoblade Chronicles sort of tried to be bulked up, so it was always going to feel like vestigial in a way.
Yeah.
That's a fair take on it. I think it does do a great job of rounding out the only character who just feels like she didn't quite wrap up her story by credits in the first game. It was incredibly necessary. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe leaving her open-ended would have been fine, but it would have. No, I wouldn't have liked that. I like knowing that she actually gets set up as. It's a queen or empress?
Queen.
It's queen. As queen, and that she actually does win the respect of her half-sister, I believe.
Yeah.
And all of that. It's like essentially just wrapping up the high-end tier stuff in general is kind of important. So.
But what is a well-written story and was cut content? Torna.
My goodness. Oh, everything about that was just an enhancement.
Torna's like honestly one of the single best like add-on content to a video game that I've played. It improves on pretty much anything that the main game had.
Well, I mean, a lot of this comes from the fact that it isn't I don't mean to use the term afterthought, but like this isn't something that came after the project was finished.
No. It was cut. It's actually cut content.
It's genuinely cut content. Oh, listen, don't stop with my brain. Cut content that they were able to beef up with certain criticisms received.
Yeah.
Also, the music is absolutely amazing, and the Gormat theme makes me so happy.
I think like the biggest criticism that comes out of Torna is the fact that gate keeps you from finishing it without getting 42 members of the community.
Might as well just get them all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I just think like to me it made sense in the story because you're going around helping communities.
Oh no, it does.
But I mean, like
it does.
They could have just made it so you had to do 40 of them, but it was an exact 40 in this exact order, and there were no others. Or they could just give you a choice between a few different ones. I don't know. It's the same thing with Tales of Exilia 2. They've got the debt gatekeeping, right? And people hate that as well. Like, but it really makes sense for the story, and like they could it's not like they're. If it wasn't there, they could still have you play the exact same length by just making some of the side content you had to do like 100% mandatory and part of just one singular story.
Yeah.
So I've never had a problem with like giving you options. Like it's side content, but yes, some of it is going to be necessary because you're going to need it to progress. I don't mind that, but I know I don't know. It's obviously some kind of psychological effect because I know people in general hate it.
Yeah, and it's like I don't mind having to do side quests, but it is that thing where they could have just forced you to do it in the storyline. Make you because the mechanic itself of making you do all these side quests is to make you try to help everybody out when in the end 99.9% of them are gonna die. So it's to make you feel like shit at the end.
It's definitely a mental thing because like my whole plan is to get everything done anyway, but running into a block when like I've kind of lost myself in the flow, and then just hitting this sudden blockade doesn't feel great. But that said, like you mentioned, I planned on doing it all anyway. So
yeah, I'm one of those people who, when that stuff comes along, I would have done it all regardless, and I would have done it all before moving on anyway. Oh. So like, it doesn't actually affect the way I play.
So that brings me to a question. Did you do all the side quests in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 as it came along?
So in Definitive Edition, yes. Because I played the first one. I tried the first like on Wii and 3DS a couple of times, but never really got that far. But yeah, in Definitive Edition, yeah, I was doing everything as it came up.
You're crazy.
Better than I am.
You're crazy, man.
Yeah, I only did the ones that gave me the extra Monado bonuses.
Holy, there's so many monotonous side quests in that game.
Yeah, there are like, I guess it depends on. Yeah, it depends on like how we're going with side quests, because it's like the really basic sort of like fetch quests, which are just
Yeah.
But yeah, like everything, pretty much. Yeah, I was pretty much doing everything. I think I even did most of those fetch quests. I have to go back and double check, but I did a lot.
Well, I mean,
man, it was rough for me to want to do more than.
And imagine trying to do that back on the Wii with no.
That's
no,
quest
log. Exactly. I said unplayable. That's what I said. Unplayable.
I don't know. Like maybe we'll get to this in a bit. I'm still somehow, despite like liking the concept, I'm not in love with the actual combat of Xenoblade 1. I think that's me being kind. I'm not in love with it. So
no, I didn't overly like it that much either.
Yeah, me.
I mean, I didn't hate it, but I thought that Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was better.
Agreed.
And that's what I. So when I first hop into X, I immediately got the this kind of feels more like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 vibes, because you play it a kind of the certain way, at least right off the bat, with cycling through like your arts down at the bottom like that. And that's the main issue I had with 1, was I just don't like it that way. But it's a lot more fast paced in X, which is
and you auto attack. You can move and you still auto attack, so you don't need to stop.
Yes.
There's lots of X is great, and later on, so like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 takes a lot from X, with the classes and builds and stuff like that. A lot of inspiration. It's super deep in Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
That makes a lot of sense, because as we all know, 2 was made by the B team of Monoliftsoft, while A team was off making Breath of the Wild. And so that makes a lot of sense.
It was still like A team, like it was still the main Monoliftsoft studio, but a lot of those stuff were temporarily relocated to Kyoto to help with Breath of the Wild. So I think it was only like 30 of the core staff from the main studio out of the normally 90 or so.
Yeah.
That did the bulk of it. So
and that's what I like about X. It's a lot more fast paced. It the only criticism
I also love I sorry to butt in. I love the mechanic, the monsters, how like it's not only level, it's also size.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so
I think it's a really cool idea. And they just have never returned to it.
So if all right, so Dalit, the monster sizes of what you fight will differ in how much damage they will do to you. So like, say you're fighting a giant monster or whatever, even if it's at the same level as you will most likely still get fucked up, because it will just do a lot more damage than you. And it'll have.
And if you like run into a tiny insect monster, even if it's like an elite, unique monster that's like 2 levels above you, you can probably take it because it's just a little insect.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. I do kind of wish that kept up.
They kind of have a similar system in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but it's not based on size. It's just there are different classes of monster. There are 3 different ones. So there's the unique ones that we're used to, and then there's regular ones, and then there's just like kind of like something in the middle. It's like a beefed up regular monster.
Yeah, I had they had even the UI shifts to let you know what you're dealing with. I recall seeing that.
Yeah, there's little markers above them, so it's like if there's nothing above their heads, they're normal. if it's got like these little blue things coming off the side of them, they're like the next step up. They're like the elite monster.
Sure.
And then the red ones with the unique names are the unique ones.
Okay. Because that's always going to be my end
Gonzalez.
game. Gonzalez, yeah.
They talk a lot about Gonzalez, by the way.
It's already
in the
come
dialogue.
up. Yeah, it's already
like,
come up in one thing.
Yeah,
so I'm surprised.
Riku's like, now you can take down even Gonzalez.
I love that they're aware.
So yeah, that's like X has a lot of good things, and like they even offset like the gigantic monsters things, and you get skells in there. You get these giant machines that will help you fight other giant stuff, so you're not getting your ass kicked.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It was it's such a mechanically like well-rounded game. Like everything sort of like has a purpose and it all fits together so good.
I get a kick out of this because there's you, Jay, our friend Evan, and now Aqua, who speak very kindly about X. And we were talking about this before, but a lot of the other people who I've spoken to when I was still mostly fresh to the Chronicles side of things, they said, yeah, play 1 and 2. Don't so much worry about X. It's different. And was always said with like, you see, it's always said with like the most unkind intentions behind it. So
I mean, yeah, you don't go into it wanting to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You go into it wanting to play a proper exploration focused open world RPG.
Yeah,
if you go into it with that mindset, it's honestly it's the best one. I think I've made that video before. It's just the best open world JRPG there is.
Yeah, our friend Evan was like, "Yeah, when you have Jay on, he's gonna talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X. So it's like his favorite one."
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, no,
I love your Evan voice, by the way. I'm gonna make sure he knows about that.
Oh man, yeah, fuck it. Whatever. Like I said, I'm only 15 hours into X, and I'm loving it. And I was like showing Dalit a bunch of screenshots because I'm like just standing on like a tall cliff or whatever, just taking screenshots. I'm like, you see that all the way over in the distance?
Beautiful.
I can go to that
with no loading screens, zero loading screens.
Yeah,
and your skill eventually gets upgraded with a flying unit. So everything, literally everything. It's like unbelievable. It's Breath of the Wild before Breath of the Wild.
I'm into an idea of like a sci-fi Breath of the Wild. I prefer fantasy over sci-fi if I have to choose between the two. But if you give me a bit of both, I'm about it. I like that.
And I told Dalit, like when you're making your own character or whatever, and you're able to pick the voices or whatever, it literally tells you right next to who's voicing the characters.
Okay, listen.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I can't believe they don't do that more often.
Thank you. It's like I don't know why that isn't just look. If people don't care about voice actors, you just won't look at it. But people like me who know that Mary McGlynn is in the game, you're going to want to beeline to Mary as fast as possible. As a matter of fact, I wanted to play a male until someone mentioned, I think it was Aqua, mentioned Mary McGlynn's in there. You better believe I want that to be the voice I'm listening to the few times my character actually has dialogue.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, man, you get to play as Mary Elizabeth McGlynn on the. He's like, well, I was gonna play a male character, but now I'm playing a female character.
Look, I'm a simple man. She did a lot for me in the 90s. I love her to pieces. I guess not the 90s, the early 2000s, really.
But like with all the things that we like about like these Xenoblade games, and I guess with Jay haven't played like 20 hours of it. Like move into like Xenoblade 3 proper, which is going to be and they've not beat around the bush with this. It's a combination of 1 and 2. It's literally in the description of the video game. And you've stated that they've taken a lot from X. And
yeah, but I think like, and this was always my theory from like the start, was that because the more and more stuff that was coming out, in trailers and the direct that they had and everything, I was like, wow, this reminds me a lot of X. This reminds me a lot of X. This reminds me a lot of X. But they've more or less said, well, Takahashi has more or less said multiple times that X is kind of like its own.
Yeah.
It's a different path for the series. So, like, we should probably expect Xenoblade Chronicles X2 maybe sometime in the future, rather than X being lumped in with all of this stuff.
Sure.
But then again, it's Takahashi, and you never know. And at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it could all wind up all mixed in together.
The new world has been smashed
like,
from two old ones. Just explodes, and we go out into the cosmos, and wait, this is the beginning of X.
Yeah, like, I don't expect that to happen. And there doesn't appear to be even any like threads, that is going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest for one. But I think that they're definitely a lot of inspiration, like gameplay and mechanics wise, from X. Like the Ouroboros forms are very reminiscent of Skells, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think the combat is more X-like. It's kind of like a mix between X and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Then you've got the class systems, and the way you build your character is very reminiscent of X as well. And just I think the world design is quite reminiscent of X as well, so far anyway.
Good. So I have the most important question that I could ever think of. All right.
Oh God, here we go.
All right, and it's similar to last week when I asked this question. Alexandria or Ethel?
Ethel.
All right. Okay. Because those are the two main waifus right now of the series, but Alexandria mainly because they gave her a very gratuitous ass shot in that direct. But
yeah, I mean, so I've only said Ethel because that's like I have more experience with Ethel so far.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, and hear me out, because I don't know about any of the characters. I did not get a pre-release thing. Is Ashera is right there. Hear me out. She's right there. Look at her. She's wonderful. Yeah, she could break me in half.
But dual blades, man, dual blades. Actually, I have a thing that I'm gonna do because I made an overlay for when I record when I'm playing Xenoblade 3. I have one that has Alexandria on it, and I have one that has Ethel on it, or whatever. And whichever one I like the most, or whatever, is just going to be like the overlay I use throughout most of the recording.
That's a new level. I can't even. You are something else, sir.
Dude, man. Okay, so waifus, man. They're like one of the most important things of video games. Okay, all right.
Oh, see, I'm here thinking, do I like the combat more? Do I like the music? Is it the narrative? I'm so sorry.
Were you really
thinking about the?
Were you really thinking about that when playing Tales of Arise with Kasara right there?
Yeah. Look, listen. How dare you call me out? I didn't come here to be attacked. Ethel does look interesting, though. I think the most interest I have in her at the moment, funnily enough, isn't just the fact that she is like waifu status amongst everyone I know, but the fact that like everyone's first reaction wasn't, "Oh, hey, that's an interesting character for Xenoblade 3." It was,
"No,
is that Cosmos? Is that Cosmos?"
Oh no, God!
And me, who is like a whole lot less in depth than people like yourself, Jay, or like people like Enel, or I think his name is Luxon. My first thought was, that is absolutely not what that is. They have made this character for Xenoblade 3. She doesn't even look that much like... You know what? I don't know as much as you guys do. You probably know something I don't.
No, I can see, because with the dual blades and the way she walks and stands, like, it's probably I mean, it could be purposeful. It could be purposeful in I mean, like, there might literally be some connection. As I said before, it's Takahashi. You never
That
know.
is fair.
But it could also just be purposeful in that it's kind of like an homage in a way.
I'll tell you what.
There are connections between some of these, like, or what I'm perceiving as connections that I guess that I've only sort of like picked up on recently. Like I never noticed before, and this is in trailers and everything else, that Senna, her hair, it's on fire.
That's Bridget. Yeah, she's like a little Bridget.
And I can't believe I didn't notice it before.
Oh, it was like the first thing I noticed was A, she's American. B, she's got ether lines, ether trails. I forget what they're called. C, the hair's like she's a blade. Wait.
Yeah, well, so many of the characters, from Agnes have crystals. Yeah,
and a lot of them, from what I've seen, I mean, not a lot, but a lot compared to what we saw in 2. A lot of them are blade eaters. Or flesh eaters?
Or well, they wouldn't have that. I don't think they would have that.
The point is the crystal.
They don't
crystal
have the designation.
Sure, but the crystal being corrupted as it is does usually, well, to me it means something very specific. So I was very interested when I saw that. It's like, why? Oh man, Agnes is way more interesting to me in this way.
I think it's so. And this is, like I said, I'm avoiding spoilers as much as possible.
Sure. Thank you. By the way,
in very broad terms, it's very much like, because I mean, it's fairly obvious that the worlds of 1 and 2 have collided. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they've even stated
it's right
that.
there, and it's
they've
right
even
there
stated it
on the menu screen. But so like. And it's like the mechanics of both the universes have like sort of melded together to work in this new universe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, they might have been blades in a distant past or in the past, but they're no longer that anymore.
Right.
And even though they're different from the other people who are, have different mechanics in the way, they're more or less the same in this universe, in the world of Aionios,
which is cool because I mean this is how it works, right? You have people that are excluding where we've come from. We have people that are the fair-skinned people who traveled north, the darker-skinned people that stayed in the hot belt, and then folks like me that are cafe con leche. So like there's all these breeds of people coming together, and we get to see that kind of evolution in the world, which is something that I felt was super lacking in the last. Well, it's not something that I felt was super lacking. Something that is lacking in hindsight to the other games. So now we have like a rich cultural evolution in this third game, going off of the past. We have Homs, I keep wanting to say Noms. Homs, Mechanus, we have bloody Nopon, we have what would be blades, and just normal driver type folk. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm super digging that.
And and they're like, and even though they're kind of all different, they're kind of all the same.
Exactly.
They all only live for 10 years or whatever it is. Yep. And they're all trying to kill each other for the life force. So it's the worlds that collided. It didn't matter what they were doing in the old universes. They're all doing something different now.
It's very cool.
So, like we were talking about with like it's Takahashi. It could be anything or whatever. I like a couple weeks ago I would have thought, okay, you know what, maybe or whatever. But like never have I ever thought that so much, because about a couple weeks ago I listened to recaps of what happens in Xenosaga, all right? And I was like, we go through Xenosaga 1 and it's fairly normal JRPG like tropish standard stuff until like the final like 15 minutes of that video, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then the rest of that series, I'm still like, what the fuck is going on? Like whoever, like the writing of that story was somebody was on some really good stuff while reading the Bible, and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell's going on. So
and we're all waiting to go to Lost Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing. So with Xenosaga, it was meant to be a 6-part series.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh
They
no!
only ever
Oh my
got 3
goodness!
done.
That's the Perfect Works. I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn earlier. Perfect Works refers
Well, I mean,
only.
it kind of relates. So the Perfect Works is so after Xenosaga got cancelled, they only got 3 parts out. He released a timeline called Perfect Works, which laid out the timeline of games that would have been 1 to 5, and then simply listed 6, but with basically no information whatsoever. And from what people have been able to like gather, Xenoblade is kind of like a second shot at similar like stories, like a similar Perfect Works timeline. So a lot of the big story beats, a lot of the big ideas are retold in Xenoblade rather than them being connected in any way. And people think that sort of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is really the first time ever that we're actually going to see that final act, the part 6.
Oh yeah.
That really that Takashi has never been able to do before.
True, he has not been able to actually finish the story. Because with Xenogears, it was supposed to go on for Xenogears too. Square Enix didn't let him, or Square didn't let him do that. And then Xenosaga, Bandai Namco didn't let him finish Xenosaga, and so now he's able to, what we would assume, maybe finish out a story, which rolls into because Little Vegeta gave us a question for this week. He said, first off, hi Jay.
Hi.
Do you think that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is going to end this arc? Do you think that like after Xenoblade Chronicles 3, they'll move on to like maybe a sequel for X, or maybe there'll be a Xenoblade Chronicles 4?
I think that it will end. And there might be another numbered one maybe in the future, but I don't think it'll be super connected to
the class arc.
Yeah.
Like I think this will be the end of it, and for the simple fact that I mean, it is going. I feel like it's going to be a well-rounded story by the end. But also Takahashi has expressed multiple times that he doesn't like to keep doing the same thing. So
yes,
he wants to try to do other things. I mean, that's why he went straight from Xenoblade Chronicles into Xenoblade Chronicles X, something completely different. And why? I mean, they've been working on a completely new IP for quite some time. The more Western inspired one, or they were at least hiring devs that had experience with Western gaming trends, and it looks more like medieval, that kind of vibe, which they haven't ever officially announced, but they've done multiple recruiting drives for it. So we assume that that's a new IP that they're working on. So yeah, I think this will be the end of this. I would certainly hope that he would go on to do a Xenoblade Chronicles X2, because Xenoblade Chronicles X, it leaves there's a lot of questions left at the end of that.
Yeah,
it seems to have been set up for a sequel.
Yeah, our friend was telling us about like how X just never got what it needed, which was to actually.
Oh yeah, there's zero closure at the end of that. Yeah. It's just it's a massive question mark.
I hate to hear it.
Not that I wasn't like dissatisfied, but I do want it to continue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And I hope they do. Oh, actually, first I hope they make a remaster for X. I think X needs to be taken off of the Wii U.
I assume that if they ever do make a Xenoblade Chronicles X2, they will release Xenoblade Chronicles X, definitive edition first.
Yeah. That needs to be off of that.
So you heard it here
thing.
first. If for whatever reason you see a definitive edition, you can just expect it to.
Yeah.
JRPG.
Yeah, I assume because as I said, again, it's stuck on the Wii U, which is it's one of the worst selling consoles of all time. So
God, they really shot themselves in the foot with that one. Yeah,
I mean, it's absolutely incredible that they managed to do Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically superior in every single way to Fallout 4, which came out at exactly the same time, and but it's a Wii U exclusive.
No, it didn't come at the same time as 4, surely not.
2015.
Yeah,
2015.
That's insane.
Yeah, they basically came out all like maybe a month apart because Xenoblade Chronicles X was December, and I'm pretty sure that November was Fallout 4.
Wow, that is absolutely.
And I remember playing Fallout 4 initially, and then Xenoblade Chronicles X come out, and I'm like, hey, why was there loading screens every 5 seconds in Fallout 4 on my PC, my very powerful PC, but this Wii U game, you can fly literally for like 10 minutes straight from one side of the world to the other with nothing.
Yeah.
The amount of spit and tape holding the two games together, that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. One's made by Monoliftsoft, the other one's made by Bethesda.
Exactly.
You just walk into the Bethesda office and you see all the machines there that are making Fallout 4, and they're all just put together with duct tape and glue. They're like, this game will run well, we swear. And then you go into Monoliftsoft and they're all running like HAL level supercomputers. Whatever. Yeah. Our development for the Wii U is actually really good, guys.
I mean, Monolith has really pushed what they're able to do on each system. Though that said, 2 is a bit funky to me because I recognize that they are very much trying a lot of new things there, and that's why
partially
B team there on that one.
Partially B team, but also the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 engine was they modified the Xenoblade Chronicles X engine, right? Which was completely different architecture. And I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 come out early in the Switch's life cycle.
It did.
Yeah.
And
then they already it didn't take them long to make significant upgrades just for Torna.
Mm-hmm.
Like Torna was significantly better on the technical side than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is another like big step up performance wise. It's really solid.
Yeah, no, 3 looks like they have a stable understanding of the tech they're working with, and they are just going to push it as much as they can.
Yeah, they over at Monolith, they learn really quickly over there on how to actually like develop for the Switch, because I mean you like I said, you see that from 2 to Torna, but then you also see that with what they did with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. That game runs so much better.
It runs really well and looks great.
Yeah, it looks so good.
And then everything I've seen from 3 looks absolutely like it's black magic what Monoliftsoft does on the Switch. And I've said this before multiple times. Like, I give Nintendo the props that they allow Takahashi just to do whatever the fuck he wants. All right, it's something a publisher developer has not allowed him to do. All right, they've not allowed him to just do whatever the hell he wants. And that's the only props I ever give Nintendo. I just feel bad that Monoliftsoft has to code for the Switch. All right.
There is always a piece of me that thinks, just imagine this for the PC.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't have to say that.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Because also, if you give them unlimited power, in a way, will they get caught up? And
that's true.
Will they focus on other things then? Well, now we've got this power, so now let's spend 2 years of our time on making the most amazing graphics you've ever seen. And then does it lose its identity? Like in the same way that it was found that the the Twitter character limit actually improves creativity because you only have a limited space to get your idea out. I sometimes feel that maybe the fact that they have to develop for these underpowered consoles kind of helps make Xenoblade what it is.
That's actually a good take, yeah.
It might if they were just allowed to make it for the PS5, it might be very different. I mean, we don't know, but it could be.
And like,
or it could be, they have an amazing turnaround and incredibly efficient development cycles that could get blown out to God knows what if they did want to go for these amazing 4K,
Yeah, I feel that so graphics for the Xenoblade games have never been like an issue with me. I mean,
let me tell you, Xenoblade 1 definitely agrees with you.
When it comes to the Wii version is suspect as fuck. All right, because that game definitely did not look very good. All right,
no,
but
everybody
loved it.
See, that was a really old engine.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean so Xenoblade Chronicles X was 100% brand new engine they built from the ground up.
Yeah,
because they deemed the one that they were using before that to be not suitable for HD game development.
Yeah,
maybe this one has both feet in the grave. I think it's about time.
Because I come from playing slightly more recently, but for the past 4 or 5 years, I come from playing the Trail series. All right, I am a hardcore fanatic for Trails. Those games look like PS3 games half the time.
Yeah, they don't look great.
Yeah, but I don't care because they run well, and Falcom does black magic when it comes to world building because that series is fucking ridiculous when it comes to the story.
Oh yeah,
and so I never cared too much about the way Xenoblade actually looks when it comes to graphics or how maybe their character models are a little wonky. It's whatever. I just like games to run well. All right. And that's my problem when it comes to Xenoblade for the Switch. I mean, obviously Xenoblade 2 did not run very well. All right, you had a lot of frame drops. The dynamic resolution was horrible for the scenery and stuff. They obviously improved that in Torna, which is good. All right. Definitive Edition was perfect, honestly. They knocked that out of the park, and everything I'm seeing with 3 looks like it runs actually absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I'm assuming it's capped at 30, but it probably
capped at 30, but I mean it's more or less there.
It doesn't fluctuate.
Feel like
it's stable.
Yeah, I feel like it's the stablest they've been, which is kind of weird because it's also probably the best looking one so far.
Yes, even just going off the trailers, you can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's still got dynamic resolution, but I don't think we're seeing because I think it went down to 360p or something on Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah.
I think I haven't noticed anything that blurry. So maybe it I imagine docked, hovers between 1080 and 720.
Yeah, that's from what I hear it does. At least a lot of the things that I've seen.
Handheld handheld's probably between 5 and 7, 500 720.
And
something like that.
That's my biggest criticism, and it's not a criticism of Monoliftsoft. It's just a criticism of Nintendo in general. All right.
Yeah.
Their console doesn't have to be the best in the marketplace or whatever. I don't care. I don't care if your console's the best in the marketplace or something like that. Or has the PS5 with the all of its fucking bells and whistles or whatever. I just like games to run at a smooth frame rate most of the time, and I don't get that with a lot of Switch games because when the Switch was released, it was still worse than some phones at that time.
Maybe I'm remembering it overly kindly, but I am thinking back to the hallowed days of the GameCube.
Yeah, when they were
GameCube
when
was
they
good.
were they
Yeah.
were like power leaders. It was way more powerful than the PS2.
Yeah. It was just that's like my entire criticism. That's why if I ever have a choice to play something on anything else but the Switch or whatever, I will. All right.
Yeah, I got like a quick note. So when they first started developing the Switch,
Mhm.
The Tegra at the time was realistically the only choice when they first started developing the hardware, because it was like at the time, because yeah, there were some more efficient more powerful CPUs, but in terms of like combined CPU and GPU, like an APU total graphical power, the Tegra was the benchmark at the time. So we're going back, this is obviously years before it actually released.
Sure.
And then there was some pretty big advancements, like while they were still essentially getting this thing ready to go to market. And by the time it came out, the Tegra wasn't exactly like super underpowered. It was still Nvidia's current Tegra product at the time. They've since released like 3 generations more while the Switch has been out, I think. So yeah, it wasn't super underpowered, and realistically, I think that it was the only right choice when they first started developing it. But because of what the Switch is, the hardware development time was longer than usual. Like doing the Joy Cons and the port, there was just a lot more for them to do than just like plop an APU in an SSD in a box and say, here we go, new. So yeah, I think the overly long development cycle, because I think when they first made the deal, that Tegra wasn't even out yet.
Yeah.
It was like Nvidia said, we've got this coming up, it would be perfect for your console. But yeah, now it's been quite a long time, and we're talking about mobile technology that moves so quickly.
Yeah,
there is a new flagship every single year.
Yeah.
Or multiple times a year, quite often.
Yeah, and it's also weird that, like, you know, it's been how long since the Switch has been out?
Yeah.
Normally
what are we at now?
I think we're
Is it
at
5 or 6 years? 6?
I think it's going on 6. Because it came out in 2016? I want to say?
March 3rd, 2017.
2017, okay.
5 years.
So 5 years. Normally at this point in time, there would have been a mid console. All right, or a mid upgrade. And I know Nintendo doesn't
product or just in general.
No, not just in general. But normally Nintendo doesn't like always do that. They did that for the 3DS. I mean, obviously,
they do it. They usually do it for their portable consoles,
their handhelds. Yeah,
but the problem is that none of those ever really took off.
Yeah.
Like, I disagree. I think that's true up until the 3DS. No, I think that's.
I think like the DSi didn't really take off. What was it before?
No, because I'm getting this wrong, because the mid upgrade would have been the new 3DS, and that one did not take off. So you're still right. Never mind.
Yeah, they never like, and the new 3DS ended up doing well, but that's because they just completely replaced the old 3DS with the new 3DS model, and that's eventually sort of the only way that they could see doing that. I think. I'm of the mind that the Nintendo Switch OLED was meant to be something else, and they couldn't get chips. They couldn't get new chips.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I'm a little like I don't. I'm like Aqua. I don't actually have too many strong feelings about Nintendo products. I will buy them. Generally speaking, they're the last on my list, but I will pick them up. That said, I actually don't think the OLED was ever meant to be anything else. I just think they felt bad about launching it so soon after the Switch, and then it kind of got away from them, and they finally launched it, but people were looking for something else. I know that they're... Well, not even that, to be honest. I know that there was internal worry at Nintendo about not making another Wii U. The Switch had been so successful.
I mean, it still is. It's
Exactly.
still selling like crazy.
That there was, like, I don't even think it was refuted, that there were people who were absolutely terrified about making any kind of change to it that might have people not continue to support the product. Like, they don't want to go from Wii to Wii U where people are like, yeah, there's no reason for us to pick it up. It's just peripheral, right? Meanwhile, they're like, no, we promise it's a whole new thing.
I know that they've had, I mean, over the years, people have dug up their, like, their patent filings and stuff like that, and they've explored many ideas, like things like a dock that has external graphics in it. So when you play in docked mode, it is more like a home console, but while you're still handheld, you can still play handheld. And there's a few other sort of things that they've explored, and then obviously, like, quote unquote, and I'm doing air quotes here, leaks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
leaks.
The
Pro's coming out soon, guys. Come on, soon.
And the thing is, there have been enough people talking about it that, and it also is obvious that pretty much as soon as the hardware launches, the hardware engineers then get to work at, like,
on the next thing,
working on the next thing,
right? Because they have to in order to keep up.
Yeah, final details, won't be ironed out until, years later, but they start working at least a little bit. And since the Switch has worked out so well for them, they've obviously been talking to Nvidia about new chips, so that's where those leaks come from. So I no doubt, but it's I don't know, it's I'm of one mind as well. Like, the OLED was probably, it probably was just meant to be the OLED.
Yeah, I should say that I do agree that they are working on something else. I just think the OLED was just, it came out later than they wanted to, but I think it was always meant to be just an OLED upgrade.
Yeah, well, it's because the other thing was that, so they made a lot of changes with the OLED, like body wise, and then even like the internal cooling solution was made smaller, which leads you down the path of, because they might have been looking at putting new chips in this, or it's simple the fact that, like, the OLED's like the what do you call it, like the trial run.
Yeah.
So, like, they put in, like, everything, the nice OLED screen, and they've got the upgraded speakers and the better kickstand, and then
everything but the internals.
When they want to release Switch Pro, all they have to do is pop the new chip in. And then the OLED takes the position of the current Switch. The Switch Pro or Switch 2, whatever you want to call it, takes the high end, and they keep they probably make a new Switch Lite, I imagine. But I don't know how. See, we don't know if they want to keep this as a family and keep it going forward in the same generation. Because I imagine that if they do release a Switch 2, it will also be backwards compatible. It would be crazy not to.
It'd be insane not to, absolutely.
So do they market it as something totally brand new and generational, or do they market it as just a new addition to the Switch family?
I definitely think the latter. I think that there's room for argument there, but I think definitely, like, the Switch board, or like the Switch Aru, or I don't know what the hell they're going to call it. I'd say the Micro Switch, but they've already gone with Switch Lite, which is a shame. Micro Switch probably would have been the way to go.
Yeah, the Switch Advance.
Yeah, like something like Advance would actually be brilliant.
Switch SP
for old people like me, exactly. Just go back to the old naming convention. Let's go.
Switch Advance SP. What does the SP stand for? We don't know. We just
wanted to color.
Oh, Switch color. Oh. If they come out, when they come out with a, I guess a next step up of, like, a Switch, and it is backwards compatible. I would be more inclined to actually get that because then I get to go back and play all the games that looked really good and played like nominally okay on the Switch, and play them on something that.
I mean, that's every Switch game. Every Switch game made for the Switch, not just a port. The ports are all, God bless them. But like, like, I enjoyed Three Houses, but I will openly admit that had some chugging to it because of what was going on. Xenoblade 2 is easily my favorite game on the Switch. It's not even close. And that game would absolutely benefit from any kind of hardware upgrade.
Same. Yeah.
Even something like Smash. But to be fair, that's mostly down to the network connection, which I imagine would be handled better than the Switch handled it. So.
Would it though?
No, it really wouldn't.
Nintendo's not been known for its internet, let me tell you.
No, but there'd at least be a better connection. It wouldn't just be Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and apparently, so the Monster Hunter Rise was like the first one to use their new online infrastructure.
That's what I keep hearing, which surprises me because I would have thought that was in Smash with the way that sells.
Yeah, but Smash is still bad online.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
But Rise is solid.
It's super good.
So it does seem like they've been doing work on it, but it also seems like there's some kinks because the reason we can't do Switch and PC crossplay is because of that. Is apparently this new infrastructure is the
infrastructure
is also a little bit tricky to work.
I suspect we'll never see the infrastructure being there for Switch and PC though.
So I don't know if that's a Switch issue or if that might be a bit of a Capcom issue with that one.
Yeah, it could be a Capcom issue.
There was no crossplay with PS4 World and PC World either. So
yeah, but they when they released it on PC, they did it with like the same content release as the original, didn't they?
Yeah. No, well,
so like
they started over, so you still had to wait a certain amount of stuff for each content update.
Yeah. It was just slightly sped up, was all.
Yeah. But they could have like added it in after like it was caught up because it wasn't too long that PC World was caught up to the PlayStation World. I mean, as soon pretty much a little bit after Iceborne came out, pretty much they were getting the same amount of updates.
Chalk it up to Japanese devs not knowing about PC.
I'm actually really happy you say this because I feel like I come off as a bully when I talk about JP devs. I like them, obviously. I play all their games.
It's never been like the JP are console gamers.
Yes.
And they're console devs. So there's never been a focus. I mean, it's great that they have been really coming around to the idea. Like even the old dogs at Atlas are putting everything on PC now.
That's stunning to me still. I'm happy to see it, mind you, but it is very surprising.
I mean, yeah, because there's really only like two old school devs left in my mind, and that's Falcom and Atlas.
Yeah.
And to see Atlas now fully embrace the world of PC and porting and putting everything on everything.
Really are in the new generation.
Well, Falcom's doing it too. The only thing Falcom is like super behind is that they're still using like their own like old school graphics engine. I mean, they are finally updating it with Kuro. Kuro's new engine. I mean, the game still kind of looks dated, but it's.
Are we not going to talk about their outdated delivery in terms of
whoa! I was
Japan?
getting to it. I was gonna get to it, man. Getting to it. All right. Their Kuro looks more like a PS4 game than it did than Cold Steel looking like a PS3 game. So that finally got updated. Falcom's now in the position of we're like 3 games behind in the West.
There we go.
And they take 12 years just to like start up localization process for the video games. I'm sitting here with like multiple Japanese collector's editions of the Trail series because I play the game in Japanese. but then I replay it when it comes out in English.
Yeah.
Because I don't wait. I cannot wait. I'm too into the series that I just cannot wait.
Yeah, it's tricky, like, because that's the thing. Like, Falcom is what they do works for them, and it's a big adjustment. Like, look how long, look how much longer Tales of Arise's development was, and it is partly because it was the first major mainline title to release simultaneous worldwide. It's a big adjustment because you're not now developing a game and then just palming it off to someone. You are now like actively involving several other teams around the world during the development process. It's a big adjustment.
I give Falcom some slack on that because which I wouldn't give to most other developers, because unlike Atlas, unlike Monoliftsoft, unlike all that, Falcom
don't have a backing. They don't have a major
They don't have a big major publishing company.
They're still a quote unquote small indie dev.
Yeah. They're very niche.
That's pretty fair.
They make a lot of money from their games or whatever. It's not like how, the money Persona makes, not the money.
I was about to say, is it really a lot?
And it's not. They're not. They're not owned by Sega like Atlas is, and they're not owned by Nintendo like Monoliftsoft is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I give them that slack, and again, like I said, I cannot wait. I buy the games in Japanese. I will normally wait for the fan translations, because the Falcom community, while cringe in most aspects, they do have a very good translating community, and holy shit.
Hey, yeah, they even started bringing them to professional.
Yeah, because that's most of the people that are doing. What's the next one that's coming out?
Crimson Sin.
Yeah, they hired half the people who did the fan translation for that.
Oh no! The next one coming out in English is the first Crossbell game. Yeah, Geofront. Yeah, they hired Geofront to. They hire, like, quote unquote hired Geofront. I think what they mainly did was they bought their translation.
Yeah, they're still, so obviously they're not going to buy the whole Geofront, like they're not going to hire the whole Geofront team, but I think they
have a couple of workers on it. They have a couple of people on it,
and like the lead, like the head, because I follow that. So like, and that's good. It keeps and that was the other thing with Nisa taking it over, was just they want to keep the consistency up, because having like 2 done by Xseed, and then you don't want to like come in and change the whole like localization style, and how, because I mean it's a major thing in Kiseki, right?
Oh yeah,
is a very long running, consistent like world building series. You don't want to have like these crazy levels of whiplash, so it's they're doing it right. It's taking a long time, but they'll catch up, and then I think it'll be all for the better in the end.
I'm wondering how, because I don't know why we're talking about Kiseki now, man. It's Xenoblade.
We can't get stuck here. Don't get stunlocked.
Yeah,
I remember how we got onto this, so finish that thought, and then I'll bring it back.
Yeah, it's very apparent that Falcom and Nisa have this sort of agreement going on, because they've been in bed with each other like for, I mean, many of years with Ys. It's just weird, because Falcom likes to release a game every year. All right, they release one game every year, so they pretty much have like a 1 to 2 year dev cycle for video games. Which is why their games usually look like PS3 games. So to get us caught up to that, they have to take a break from Kiseki for at least 2 years. From developing it in Japanese. And now I know Kondo said he said that the story itself with Crimson Sin, I think, it's about 75% done. At least the entire story itself. And they are working on Ys 10. they to get I don't think we'll ever be caught up. Is the problem?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that the current thing is like I'm hoping that they're in talks with Falcom just to be more involved. They don't have to be fully integrated into it, but I think that they will the turnarounds will get shorter and shorter on the localizations. It's just been a big adjustment, and then deciding to bring everything over.
Yeah.
That I don't think, because as much as there is, I mean, what you'd have to call a cult following for Kiseki in the West, it is not large, and I don't think there is like a single, like if you brought a businessman in and laid out this plan, I don't think a single one would have went, "This is a good idea."
Yeah.
It's like NISA have decided to do this. And I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think they're looking long term. Otherwise, I don't think they would do this. I don't think it makes that much business sense.
Yeah, no. I think Falcom's kind of getting to the point where they're looking into maybe speeding it up a little bit, because they've been in bed with Cloud Leopold the past couple of releases, and
I heard one country there is one localization that's really quick.
It's Korean.
Yeah,
it's Cloud Leopold. They get the game. I think they're getting Crimson Sin pretty much the same time that Japan's getting Crimson Sin. So I think they're translating it as Japan's creating the game. So if they they're
do
more
that
with NISA.
Yeah, they're more involved. The thing is that it's like it is easier. It is easier to localize into Korean than it is to localize into English. I mean, when you're talking about doing a Japanese into a Western language is one of the hardest to do. So yeah, it'd be a little bit speed up there, but that's the thing. I think if they wanted to involve NISA in the entire process and have it all done, I think that they wouldn't then be able to release a game a year.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Because the dev cycle would get blown up just because of the process. I mean, you're talking like it's going to add probably 6 months to their regular dev cycle. But yes, as we were saying, so the reason we got onto this was because Xenoblade's graphics and Kiseki's graphics, they look old. But the thing is, with Xenoblade, and the thing that impressed me most in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, especially, was the cutscene direction and animation.
So good.
That's like that's top notch. That's like it's beyond top tier.
Yeah.
So like the games, maybe not that impressive graphically, but holy hell, the cutscenes are incredible. Like, if I have one criticism of Arise, it's that the cutscene animations were nothing compared to Xenoblade.
Oh no, they weren't. They were nowhere near.
And I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't know how they do it. The other game actually, in recent memory, that had just as good was Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Oh yeah, their cutscene
incredible cutscene direction,
so
and it just goes to show that like you seriously do not need like cutting edge graphics and 12K textures on every little thing.
Yeah.
To have a really impressive looking game, all you have to do is have some good direction, some good animation.
Yeah, no, that's the big thing about like I think that's the biggest draw to Xenoblade 2 was that the first big cutscene you get is the after the releasing of Pyra, all right, and you get the battle on top of the Leftharian ship where you first hear counterattack play, which is the greatest insert song to ever be fucking created ever. And the entire like direction of that scene itself pretty much sets the bar for that entire video game. All right, because it is that level, if not higher, in every subsequent like high action cutscene. In that game.
Some of the fights are it's just so well like choreographed and animated. It's so good, and even the non-action scenes, like the first time, or not the first time, but when Morag and Bridget track the party down, and like they walk through that wall of blue flames.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Like it's
I love anytime those two do anything on screen. Like Morag is actually dreamy.
And obviously we're definitely going to be seeing that in Xenoblade 3, because like even some of the cutscenes that they've shown with like when your team from Kevis and your team from Agnes are fighting each other like in the beginning of the game. That cutscene looks obviously as well directed as anything in Xenoblade 2 was.
Oh yeah, and some of the effects it's great. Again, it's just another perfect example of excellent cutscene direction.
Obviously, I mentioned counterattack, all right? And if there's one thing in the Xenoblade, like, trilogy, I guess duology that we have, or a trilogy now, actually, the OST for Xenoblade games have been fucking top notch.
So good. Like this could be a video unto itself.
Like I said, counterattack is actually the best insert song I have ever heard, and it can go honestly with almost anything. I don't know if that's disputable or not.
I genuinely can't dispute that. I have preferences to Xenoblade 1's music, but I have preferences to Xenoblade 1 music in terms of the purpose it's used in, but I genuinely love Xenoblade 2's music, like just as standalone stuff. Oh my goodness, counterattack is actually that good.
Yeah, the whole series does. They're amazing OSTs. I am obviously a big fan of Xenoblade Chronicles X's.
Well, okay,
I love everything that like Z5 Mirror and almost all the battle themes, but then especially like just the zone themes, like Noctilum's night theme and day theme, and Sylvalim's music. It's just so good.
It is.
The OST has been once again fantastic in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 so far.
Wasn't a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, some really cool stuff they're doing, like because the Offseers play a big role with the flutes in the story, and there's some really cool melodies. Like they sneak that in. It's really
leitmotifs.
Good. It's really good.
Let's go.
Yes,
I love leitmotifs. Oh my goodness.
I mean, coming from 14, we're all about leitmotifs. Like,
leitmotifs are good. But like, just genuinely, I love whenever like there's an overarching theme in your music that you can bring back to set different emotions. It's not something I think is terribly strong in the Xenoblade games, but like their use of music for like just scenery and ambience and very specific locations is also incredibly strong. Like I said before, I think one of my favorite pieces is genuinely Makana's Field. I love that track so much. It's so nice. But like Engage the Enemy is probably my favorite battle theme from Xenoblade 1. And in terms of just like purposeful themes for a location, while it's not my favorite piece of music, Land of Marithia rather, is so haunting. Like, the series. And I think I've already gushed enough about how much I love Gormat's theme in the Golden Country. So it's just so routinely good. I expected 3 was going to have strong musical motifs because of the nature of the two leads, and I am happy to hear that is in fact correct.
Yasunori Mitsuda slaps when it comes to OSTs, man. Like his work in 2 and his work and from what I've like heard, and his work in 3 is good. I mean, and then you have Xenoblade 2 like gets not Xenoblade 2, but Xenoblade X gets put off into its own territory when it comes to this, because you have the workings of Sawano Hiroyuki in that game. He's actually in my top 3 of favorite composers. I've watched a lot of anime that he's composed, and I can pick him out pretty like okay. So, have you ever watched Aldnoah Zero, Jay?
I've ever watched what? Sorry,
Aldnoah Zero. It's an anime.
No, I haven't.
All right, he composes that anime. He also composes Attack on Titan. And my friend was like always like telling me like a couple days before I like was actually picking up Xenoblade X. She's like, yeah, Sawano Hiroyuki composes, and I'm like, yeah, I like his music. I like his music a lot, and I didn't know he did that. And the first tyrant you come across in X, like the storyline where you have to fight your first tyrant or whatever. The music starts playing, and it's uncontrollable. All right, and it hits the chorus, and I immediately go, "This is 100% Sawano Hiroyuki," because he's using the same girl he always uses in every single pieces of his music.
Who sounds great, by the way.
Who sounds amazing or whatever. But in every single OST that he does or whatever, it's always the same girl. And I'm sitting here I'm like, his music is his way of composing is actually extremely perfect for X, because of the setting that X is in. He does a very good urban-esque like composing. Like it's very metallic composing is what Sawano Hiroyuki does. And he's got it's very very he's good for mechs. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. And
it's fitting. Nice. Everything he does in X is fitting. Even though like people rag on the couple of like rap tracks, but it works, right?
I'm so happy you understood why
they're in New LA.
Like,
yeah, they're in New LA. It worked, and the way the guy who actually did the vocals for it was. Like they basically just said, yeah, we just want we don't even care what you say. we just want kind of like rap vibes. But everything works, and every zone feels distinct, and the music matches it perfectly. Mm-hmm. Like every time you go to Sylvalum, which I don't see, you won't have even.
I haven't been there yet. I've been to
when you walk in
there,
you look around, you're like, this the music, the scenery matches perfect. It's like this surreal world, and then the Noxlim's like that, it has that jungle music.
Yeah,
it's just perfect. He's perfect.
And from what you've played of 3, with Yasunori Mitsuda, does it feel like does the OST that you've heard in 3 match up with a lot of the areas that you've been in?
Well, yeah, I think that because the first few areas are the more standard sort of areas, that you expect to see in Xenoblade. And so they carry on. I wouldn't, if I hadn't played other Xenoblade games, I don't think I would have been like, oh, this music is perfect for this open fields zone. Mm-hmm. But it definitely carries on the feel from the other games, so you're like, yeah, this is the theme for here, but it's got that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 flavor. Nice. So I don't yeah, I mean, it's been fitting, but yeah, I don't think it's been as I don't even know how to say this. I just mean like it's only natural because I guess I'm used to the way that Xenoblade characterizes certain zones. I haven't been to any super distinct zones yet.
Yeah, that's
I haven't
fair.
been to like a Sylvalum,
Yeah.
which is a crazy unique world. It's mostly been sort of the Mechonis areas and
Okay, so yeah, so it's a
things from
lot of
Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles a bit from column A, a bit from column B to begin with.
okay. That's good.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I mean, okay, so like we could all sit here and talk about Xenoblade. Like, I mean, I could talk about video games. I mean, for 93 episodes, apparently. Is there any bit of like of Xenoblade at the moment that you're allowed to say that you're looking forward to people like getting their hands on?
Oh man, I've been trying to find this because I'm sure I saw this. Like maybe it was just posted on like Twitter. Have you been keeping up with the trailers?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I have.
Have you seen the console trailer? The consoles,
Is that the one that came out
as
like
in
5 days ago?
CONSUL,
Oh, I don't think
where
I
it's
have.
like these
Wait.
weird people speaking in a room in a dark.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh
the
yeah,
one.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have seen it.
That was at the beginning of the direct. Like
Yes, yeah.
where they're talking in the theater.
That's why I couldn't find it. I
Yeah.
am the full version of just that cutscene and then what it leads into is super. I still don't even really know what's going on, like if I'm being completely honest, but
No.
it's super cool. Like I just love it. I love those characters. It comes out of nowhere. It's super weird. But
Yeah, that's what people have been saying.
I can
Like, it
already
fits
tell
more
it's
plot.
leading somewhere. I can already tell, and it's like clear. Like it's cool. I can't wait for you guys to like get into the console stuff.
Well,
Oh,
we'll be able to
absolutely.
get into it in 2 days, man. 2 days.
Yeah, not long.
Oh.
And then yeah, I mean, the combat has been super cool. Like for people who haven't played X, I'm super looking forward to people like experiencing this, like something that's a lot more customizable, like a lot more RPG like in the way that you build a character.
Yeah.
Compared
Oh, I
to
like that.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. It's not like, super statty and this and that, but it's very much like X in the way. So like in X you had you pick a class and then you could upgrade that class, and then if you like mastered those classes you could sort of like mix them together and have skills from both. And then you could really build an ultimate character, something that fit your playstyle perfectly, and that like spirit and a lot of those mechanics carry on into Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where you can go into each other's classes and you can master those classes, and then you can start combining them in different ways and using skills. The Ouroboros the Ouroboros forms, they have skill trees. And actual skill trees, like kind of they remind me of talent trees, like in WoW.
Okay.
So it's
I have
cool.
experience with that.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that, especially for people who haven't really experienced that side of Xenoblade yet, because a lot of people just haven't played a lot of X.
True.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that.
um.
I want to pick your brain about something super specific, actually, when it comes to the combat, and it's something that I think after so many hours of playing, you probably just don't even notice anymore.
Yeah.
One of my minor concerns when seeing some of the earlier stuff before I started like distancing myself from all the possible spoilers that I was seeing, what was how. God, this is such a negative connotation. How cluttered the screen looked during combat. Uh,
Um,
mm,
It's
speak generally about how you feel about that, how it becomes either a non-issue, or if maybe you did notice that there was a lot constantly on screen.
no, I think the in some of the the earlier tutorial things, there are little extra messages which clutter up the screen a bit more. But once they're over, it's not too bad. You basically have the enemy that you're targeting with their health bar up the top of the screen. And then you have down the bottom in the bottom two corners, you have your arts, and the other side is other commands like being able to shift into the Ouroboros, or that's where you can set arts and fuse them. So you have art fusion as well, so you can have an art from another class on the other side. I unless there's you also have a quest objective on the screen as well. Like sometimes, especially during the tutorial sections, there will be like a little quest objective, like kill this enemy now.
Sure.
And that clutters it up more. But once you get past that, it's not too cluttered. It's no more or less cluttered than Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2.
Okay.
And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a little bit cluttered. I actually think it's probably a little bit less cluttered than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because of the actual assets themselves, the UI pieces themselves are a little bit smaller. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was quite
and this was
quite large.
This was that was what led to my worry, rather. Well, that's good to hear. Also, one final thing about combat, I can't help but notice I don't see quick time things popping up. I don't know how much you want to speak to that. If at all, you can feel free to ignore that. But all I'm saying is I'm noticing a whole lot of not having to press B at a specific time, and I'm loving that.
Yeah, I don't think, and I mean, once again, with the tutorials didn't stop until like 60 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so who knows? There might be.
My goodness, that's true.
They might add that in the next 20 hours, but so far no QTEs. You've got chain attacks, very reminiscent of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You've got the arts and art fusion, your auto attacks, Ouroboros forms. I think that the system as it is probably, there's plenty of moving parts. It certainly doesn't need the QTEs, but who knows?
Yeah.
Honestly, they could end up being there. They could introduce it.
What Dolly? It's okay.
I haven't none so far.
It's okay because they gave you the ability in which me and him did not know until like a couple weeks ago. They give you the ability to turn off the QTEs in 2. So
that is true.
If they do bring it in 3, what?
Can you do that before you beat the game once, though?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough then, yeah. It's something I didn't know about till you literally told me, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, in my emulated version of X, I have the QTEs.
Yeah, the auto do.
Yeah.
I played so much of it on like Wii U, like the original. It's like muscle memory for me. I never miss one.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I don't even think about it.
For a little bit, and I don't know if they fixed it or not, but for a little bit, the if you were playing at 60 frames on the emulator, it would you could not be fast enough to hit it. So
yeah, certain things do get sped up with that mod, but yeah.
So I took it off because I just don't want to deal with that. Not to mention the QTEs just kind of like in 2, the QTEs like I was able to do them like well enough or whatever, but they did feel out of place. I just felt like I didn't need it.
Yeah, and they're not like, they aren't super important in X either.
Yeah.
They're more important in 2.
Yeah.
For body gauge reasons, depending on what you have, yeah.
Yeah, I don't in X it doesn't really matter until you're in overdrive. Other than that, it's just a bit of extra damage. Or a bit of mitigated damage.
Okay. I was gonna ask you about Heroes, but I think I'll save that for when we actually play the game, because obviously Heroes are supposed to, I guess, replace the kind of like blades of like Xenoblade 2, but I 100%
and
assume
look,
it's not gotcha.
and no, and it's not like it's not a thing that's like introduced you straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Like that comes later, and it's like it's a big game. It's gonna be a big game.
Yeah,
Everybody strap in for the long haul.
I
I have to work
assumed
so much.
I
I
assumed
want to
it was
just
going to
spend
be a
12 hours
big
a
game.
day.
I assumed it was going to be a big game because, for one, like I said, I don't follow Nintendo stuff, so I guess I didn't know that they normally send out review copies like a month out or whatever. But when I start hearing that people that IGN and everybody's are like getting their review copies, and it's like July 1st, ever, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh, are they giving them enough time to actually beat the game?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Nintendo is always good for that, but yeah, but they also understand when it's something like this, you need that kind of time.
I
Like
read
if you want a well like played game and a well written review, you're gonna need to give them at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I read one guy, he was like, I'm like 10 to 15 hours in. I think I may have gotten through the tutorials, and me and my friend just laughed, and we were like 40
Yeah,
hours
probably
in gets
not.
another tutorial. Oh.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge improvement in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. You can not only reread tutorials,
Yes.
there is also a little training room. You can actually replay like tutorial missions or battles.
Oh. Damn.
So yeah, so you can not only just they'll explain chain attacks, and it's not only can you go in and look at those the little slideshow cards again.
Mhm.
You can actually go in and into like a I don't know, like a holodeck, and you can
Like a VR mission.
yeah, and you can basically do that tutorial. Actually, do that tutorial again.
Oh, we do love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Oh,
cool.
God.
Because I mean, that was a big problem in Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Huge.
You saw the tutorial once, and that was it.
I mean, the other half just being the tutorials actually ended up not being great.
And yeah, they weren't super clear.
And
But yeah, I mean, there might be a criticism that they overcompensated. Because there are
fair.
tutorials for everything, but they're also for the it's not like they do a 5-page slideshow to explain cooking to you. Cooking is explained pretty quickly. It's like, yeah, you can give Banana ingredients and she'll cook things, it gives you a buff. Like they don't treat us like idiots, but there are a lot of tutorials, but I think they're just making sure that that it's all documented there. You can go back to it. If there's ever anything that you're not sure about, you can always go back to it.
And that's fantastic. That's as it should be, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to getting my hands on this game. I actually haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I'm gonna do it Wednesday because that's when I get paid, and we'll throw down the money for the expansion pass. Which, I mean, I guess we didn't talk about that, but like, man, there's so much they could do with this expansion pass, and then that image that they have with all three of the main characters' blades like stuck in the ground together. Like, I mean, that's obviously that's obviously where they're gonna tie in everything, right?
Yeah. See, I don't know if it's gonna be like. I don't think they'll make it necessary to buy the expansion pass to have like a rounded out story.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there could be like super distant future stuff.
Yeah.
Like the end of Harry Potter, where they just have they have like that very short part where you see them all as fully grown adults.
Yeah, with their kids and
Like
everything.
kind of like an epilogue. So it could be something like that. It could even be earlier. It could be pre
True.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It could be, you know, like what happened to these Monado wielders while the worlds were colliding, or before the worlds were colliding. Who knows? Like, really, with the way that they did Future Connected and Torna, it could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's Takahashi, so I mean,
Yeah.
it literally can.
Yeah,
be
again,
anything.
I don't think they'll make it necessary. So I don't think it'll be like, I don't think like the DLC will be like the ultimate ending.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like, it'll either be something nice, like an epilogue, or it'll be like, it'll just be add to it. It'll be adding to the story, add to the lore.
I know the image that they showed for or like the silhouette that they showed for the second update, where the character kind of looks like it has like the same flaps that Pyra did, like the long like cape flaps, but they kind of look worn. And a lot of people were like assuming like, oh my god, is this going to be like a Pyra thing?
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise anyone. Probably not anyway.
But the character looks more robotic or whatever. Like, I mean, that the character, like the silhouette does look more. It looks more like a
Poppy.
That's
no,
what.
I'm just causing trouble.
No,
I'm
I mean,
just causing trouble.
I mean, there was a theory that it could be like Poppy with like acting like she might be like Pyra or something like that, but I'm not sure. I'm very interested in all.
I
the
mean,
updates
but
they
also,
do.
I mean, if you go back and watch, watch the start of that direct again, the consoles look pretty robotic.
Yeah, this is
and
true.
that's not even me dropping hints. That's just
Yeah.
me thinking out loud.
That is absolutely correct, though.
Yeah,
like that's me thinking out loud.
I have my own theory. I have my own theory with the consoles because, they each have like their name is a designated letter. Like one of them was P, one of them was D, or whatever.
Yep. The main one Z, K.
And the one that is designated P or whatever, her voice does sound slightly familiar, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I don't want to say it was Pyra's voice or that voice actress or whatever, but it did sound very. It's not English. It's not like, it's not like European English. All right. It is very.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, it's not European English. It's a very American accent or whatever. And Pyra and Mithra did have American accents.
They do all. They're all distinct too. So we're out to now. But one of the consoles has been revealed.
Okay.
But I mean, not that I can't say anything or don't want to say anything.
You really can't.
I know, but I don't even I don't know if it's significant.
Okay.
In that, like the reveal of it, I don't really like it. It wasn't like, oh, and the mask shattered and it's Pyra underneath. It's not. It was not that kind of reveal. It was just like, oh, yep, that's a console. So yeah. So yeah, I don't. Who knows really the significance? And assuming if they've all got a letter, are there 26 of them?
Oh yeah, true.
Because the last one is Z, and then there's a K, and there's
a P, and
a D. There's a P. So are there 26 of them?
Oh man.
Who knows? There seems to be quite a lot of them.
Man,
be interesting. Yeah, just not really sure what role, what ultimate role they play or anything at the moment. It's super intriguing.
It does seem like the story might get a little dark too.
Yeah, I mean it's super intriguing. The thing so far I've noticed is that like the fact that I know the stories of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 hasn't really come into it. Like, yeah, I see who is obviously Melia as the like. I obviously see her, and I'm like, well, that's obviously Melia. But like, other than that, it's a brand new player is going to be like just as intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very well written at the moment.
That's good.
Fantastic to hear.
That's good to hear. Yeah, that's very good to hear. Well, we are over 2 hours, and I know
and we have so much more content to cover. Can't
so
stop now. No.
Yeah. We've picked your brain. We've talked about like pretty much the history of Monoliftsoft in that extent, even with a side tangent of Falcom stuff. And he told us you want us to see all the stuff with the consoles. So I mean the only thing left to do is play the video game, in which we will be able to do in 2 days. So well, 2 days from now, anybody listening to this, it'll literally be that night, because this comes out on Thursdays. So yeah, honestly, Jay, man, thank you for indulging us and coming by again.
Seriously,
no problem. Thanks for having me on.
If anything, when we talk about JRPGs, like I'm like, okay, I go to like 5 people to talk about JRPGs, and you're pretty much at the top of the list. But yeah, I mean, thank you for coming on, and I mean, where can anybody find you?
You can find me at now. God, it's been so. I haven't actually plugged since I changed everything. It is youtube.com/JRPG gaming, which is literally just the letters. So JRPG and then gaming, one word. And that's same for Twitter and Instagram, which I barely use. Twitch is different, but I never stream, so don't worry about that. And at the I've been extremely sick for months.
Oh damn.
So, and I've been capable of doing content for a couple of weeks, but I thought rather than rush myself into it, I'll ease into it, and I'll be back for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So
sounds good.
The return to content will come with Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Sweet.
Well, very good to have you back.
Yeah.
Yes, this will technically be my return, your podcast.
Hey,
oh, dude,
thank you.
Dude, we feel good, man. Makes me feel good. Anyway, yeah, thank you. And if anybody has gotten to this point of the podcast, which I know it's 2 hours and like 15 minutes, please give us a like and subscribe. Comment, tell us like how much you hate us and everything, please. And go and give Jay a subscribe as well. He makes very good JRPG content on his YouTube, and we will see you guys next week for a normally scheduled program.
Be good, make good decisions.
Yep.
See everyone.
Before you go, remember to like, comment, and sub to us. Not only does it help out the channel and let us know what you're into, but it also makes you 100% cooler than everybody else. I checked with Aqua. It's definitely